Hello class. My name is Abhishek Biswas and I'm an educator at Key to Success Academy, Nagar, Raipur. And again, we are going to continue with our series on literary theories. As of now, we are discussing about new criticism, and in new criticism, we are discussing certain writers. Almost all writers are done. I believe two or three more writers are left for us to discuss. And today we are going to discuss about Alan Tate. Okay, again, new criticism, they will have mostly the American writers. So today we are going to discuss how Alan Tate. I believe if you have studied American literature, you must have gone through Alan Tate. But today we are going to discuss about the literary works, the literary theories given by Alan Tate rather than his literature. Okay. So let us get started with the class. So we are dealing with new criticism. And in new criticism, today we are going to discuss Alan Tate. Okay. No, I'm not going to tell you that Alan Tate was the American poet, critic, essay. There's no sense for me to write all those. Let us get started with some facts about his life. So the first one, you should write that he was a leading figure of the southern agrarians. If you watch the video on John Crow Ransom, you would be very much clear that who were Southern agrarians. Southern agrarians was a movement by some of the poets in America, in the southern part of America, who argued that we should go beyond the industrial revolution and go back to the agrarian cultures rather than going all mechanized. Okay. Now, some of the concepts given by Alan Tate. The first one is, he argues that poetry as knowledge. Okay, here he says that poetry is not a form of entertainment or a form of literature that you read to get pleasure. Rather, it is itself a form of knowledge. Poetry gives you knowledge. So there is a definition upon this concept. The definition goes: poetry is the concrete universal in the aesthetic experience. Poetry is the concrete universal in the aesthetic experience. This definition is given by Alan Tate. Let us go through the definition for once more. Poetry is the concrete universal in the aesthetic experience. Okay. Now, the second concept by Alan Tate is tension. Tension. Now, what is tension? This tension doesn't mean the stress or tension which we usually speak and usually mean. This tension is actually, if you have studied physics, you would know that if a thread has been hung with a kind of ball, so this string will also feel some pressure, will also feel some stress. The stress on this string is actually called tension. This is what tension means. Tension doesn't always mean stress in the mind. Okay. Hmm. So now what tension is he talking about? Tension between which two objects, है ना? He's talking about structure versus texture. Structure versus texture. Now what is texture? Texture are those things that you see in a poetry, है ना? The words, tone, rhythm, meter, etc. है ना? The things which you can see in the poem, है ना? And what is structure? These are the abstract ideas like themes, themes in the poem, है ना? So he argues that when there is a balance between structure and texture, when there is a balance or when there is a tension, when there is a proper tension between structure and texture in a poetry, we get the best form of poetry. The best form of poetry is the one which has a balanced tension between its structure and its texture. So this is the most in the previous papers you will also see they used to ask about this term. है ना? More than his works, what you should know is about the fact, the concept which is given by Alan Tate, and the concept is about tension. Now, let us get into his works, the main works. We will discuss the main works and we will be done with him. So, the first one is Tension in Poetry. Tension in Poetry, 1938. The second one is Reactionary Essays. Now, this work, Tension in Poetry, has been published in the Kenyan Review, which was founded by, which was edited by John Crow Ransom. Reactionary Essays on Poetry and Ideas. Then we have Reason in Madness. Then we have On the Limits of Poetry. Then we have The Forlorn Demon. The Forlorn Demon. Demon, sorry. Didactic and Critical Essays. Lastly, we have Essays of 4 decades. Essays of 4 decades. 1969. Okay, so that's it. That's it about um, Alan Tate. So let us get a quick revision then. Again, we are, as of now, we are studying about new criticism, and Alan Tate falls under new criticism itself. So he was the leading figure of the Southern Agrarian, leading figure in the Southern Agrarian, a movement started by John Crow Ransom. Then he has given us two concepts. First one is poetry as knowledge. He says that poetry is itself a form of knowledge and it is not something only for entertainment. Then he gives a definition: poetry is the concrete universal in the aesthetic experience. The second concept given by him is tension, and which is the most important part of Alan Tate's work. Tension. Now, what is tension? He says that the structure of a poem, the structure, what is the structure? The abstract themes, the abstract, the thoughts, which is not present in the poem itself, but it is the one which the poem is symbolizing for. And the texture. Now, what is texture? The texture is the concrete thing that you can see in the poem, the words, the tones, the rhythms, the metaphors, the symbols. Okay. And he says that when there is a proper balanced tension, when there is a proper balanced tension, balanced tension between the structure and texture of a poem, we find the best form of poem. Then we have 6 works. First one is Tension is in Poetry, 1938. Then we have Reactionary Essays on Poetry and Ideas, 1936. Then we have Reason in Madness, Critical Essays, 1941. Then we have On the Limits of Poetry, which are actually selected essays from 1928 to 1948 and published in 1948. Then the Forlorn Demon, Didactic and Critical Essays, 1953. And lastly, Essays of 4 Decades, which is kind of a compilation work, in 1969. So that's it. That's it about Alan Tate. Now I believe we have like 2 or 3 more writers in new criticism. Then we will be done with new criticism. Again, this is a part of our ongoing series for English literature, UGC NET English literature, December 2025. And very soon we are going to start our new batches. And if you want to get admitted in those new batches, or you want to join the ongoing series, you can get each and every details in the description box below. Again, thank you for your time and have a great day.